Coming up,
She made every minute out of her life special.
Bree Moore was not the kind of girl you'd expect to have an abusive boyfriend.
He was charming, he was articulate, he was polite.
Butch and Cindy Moore never dreamed they'd see Josh Almeda in a courtroom. How Bree hid his dark side from her parents until it was too late.
And if Bree's friends and co-workers would have done something, Bree might be alive today.
Today, Bree's parents visit schools to share her story.
A lot of people say it's too sensitive a topic, but I think those are the most important topics to talk about.
Ahead, Bree's story and the danger signs, what every parent and teenager should know.
Alaska, where there are old triumphs, but also new frontiers, with challenges as great as the state itself, but a belief that the best is yet to come, bringing you the faces, the places, and the spirit of the last frontier. This is Frontiers with Rhonda McBride.
Welcome to our program. One of the most challenging frontiers in Alaska, the fight to end domestic violence. Alaska has one of the highest rates in the nation, and that's partly why the governor declared February Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. The governor also supports a bill that would name a new law to educate students about dating violence in memory of a young woman named Bree. So, who was Bree, and why should we care?
It's hard to go anywhere and not think about Bree.
This log home at Big Lake was one of Bree Moore's favorite places.
Her formal name is Brianna, but as she got older, she wanted to be called Bree.
Her parents say they can still feel her presence here.
She would get me up early in the morning and say, "Dad, come on, we've got to go ride." She made every minute out of her life special.
Completely confident in the world of the outdoors, a life full of adventure, fueled by a boundless energy, suddenly cut short.
They asked me first to sit down. I said, "Well, just tell me what you got to tell me."
Not long after Bree's 20th birthday, in June of 2014, her parents got an early morning visit from police.
I went into shock immediately. My body went cold and I started sweating, and they were ready to catch me.
I went to the top of the stairs and there were two police officers standing at the bottom of the stairs, somber and not saying a word. I knew that something had probably happened to Bree. That's the only reason why there would be two police officers in my house. And I thought it was a car accident. And I asked them, I said, "Did she die in a car accident?" And they said, "No."
Police told the Moores their daughter's body was found at her boyfriend's home, where he lived with his parents. The Moores asked if there had been a home invasion.
They said no. They said Josh, her boyfriend, killed her.
Bree would be the last one that we would expect this to happen to.
Bree fell in love with Josh Almeda when she was 19. Although it was an intense relationship, her parents were impressed that he worked 6 days a week as a car mechanic, with dreams of owning his own business, and that his parents lived in a nice hillside home.
As a parent, you kind of go down and you check all the boxes off.
He was very mature, very calm.
He was charming, he was articulate, he was polite.
It just seemed as though he and Bree got along great.
He seemed to love Brianna.
There isn't a day that goes by that I do not think about Brianna. And I live and carry with that burden with me and heartache every day.
Even in the courtroom, Josh Almeda did not seem like the kind of guy who would kill his girlfriend.
And learning months and even years later what really was happening with Josh and his history, this was really the inevitable.
But at the time, Bree seemed so devoted to her boyfriend, busy at her job as an aide in a dentist's office. But behind her smile, Bree's coworkers saw signs of trouble, signs they didn't reveal to the Moores until after her death.
They told me that she had come in several times with black eyes, and one time she came in and she hadn't just been hit, they said she had been beaten. And she couldn't function, and she vomited in the sink, and she left after about 15 minutes. They sent her home.
There were other red flags.
Well, I'll read you a text message that we found on Bree's phone after we got her phone back 2.5 years after she was killed. Bree texts, "You better love me and stop hitting me, please," with an exclamation point. Josh, "Of course I love you, and Ramrod hit you, not I." So Ramrod must have been, when he got angry, I'm assuming. Bree, "I really don't like it at all. Please don't let him come out." Josh, "He won't."
Why do you think that Bree didn't tell you?
If she would have told her mom or her dad, at minimum, we would not have allowed her to see Josh again. I mean, I would have said, you can't see this guy again. You don't go down this road, he could kill you. But we didn't get that chance.
I think there's just a lot of reasons. There's that stigma that is hanging over their head that, oh my gosh, you're an abused woman.
The Moores blame Josh's parents the most. They say the Almedas downplayed their son's problems.
And they told us that, well, Josh had had some problems. He was hanging out with the wrong crowd. He had been drinking, he had done drugs, and he's not doing that anymore.
But Josh had a long criminal history, including an arrest just before he dated Bree. This indictment says he beat his girlfriend in a drunken rage at her home. First, he threw her on the floor and she hit the door frame. Then, grabbed her by the hair and dragged her across the living room, where he punched her in the head and hit her with a mirror in the rib cage. After he passed out, the girlfriend sought help from Josh's mother, who came to the home and cleaned up the crime scene. Josh was later acquitted.
They failed to tell us of the incident with his prior girlfriend. They failed to tell us he was a convicted felon. They failed to tell us that they had taken multiple guns away from him and that he probably did have a gun at that time.
The night Bree was shot in the head and killed, Josh's mother was home, but didn't call 911 until 2 hours after her death. Josh initially told investigators it was an accident and denied knowledge of the stolen handgun used to kill Bree.
All he ever received for those crimes was a slap on the wrist. In my opinion, this was a complete failure of the criminal justice system, a failure that ultimately led to my daughter's death.
The Moores say there is also the failure of parents and schools to educate children about teen dating violence, which needs to change.
Because if we saw our friend choking, would we just walk away and say, I don't want to get involved, and let them die? Of course not. We're going to help them. We're going to give them the Heimlich maneuver. We're going to save their life.
But I think the biggest part is that parents can talk to their kids and say, you know what, this is not okay. How many kids know what to do if your friend is in an abusive teen dating violence situation?
That's why the Moores have launched a statewide campaign that includes these posters with information to help young people find answers. So you've learned a lot over the last few years.
Very painfully.
Yeah, extremely painfully.
In a nutshell, what is it that we have to tell our young people about dating violence?
It's real. It's happening. And we need to do something to change that.
And we haven't actually said, if a boy hits you or hurts you, you can come and talk to me about that. If you're in an unhealthy relationship, we can talk about that. What's healthy, what's not healthy? Is this calling you 50 times in a day? Is that healthy?
They never have to put up with controlling, abusive behaviors by their dating partner, ever. It's never acceptable. And they can talk to their parents.
Why should we care about Bree?
Because it will be your daughter next time. It will be your sister or your friend or your coworker. Friends don't let friends drive drunk, and friends don't let friends get beat up and assaulted.
Bree's life may be over, but her story brings light into a dark world we are only beginning to understand.
And if it can happen to Bree, it can happen to anyone.
We called Josh Almeda's parents. His father, Philip, declined to comment and said the court record speaks for itself. Ahead, lessons learned and lessons shared.
Teaching this in schools is a good time when kids are so impressionable.
Don't be afraid to save someone's life.
Bree's Law, how the Moores have taken their campaign against teen dating violence into the schools. Last year, the legislature passed a law called the Alaska Safe Children's Act, which requires schools to teach children about sexual assault and other abuse. This year, there's a bill in the House to rename part of that legislation Bree's Law. Bree's parents believe it'll make a difference. When Josh Almeda was sentenced for the murder of his girlfriend,
Your Honor, we brought Brianna with us today.
a reminder of what was at stake.
We wanted to show the court what we have left of our sister.
But Bree has risen from those ashes in an unexpected way.
Her death is an example that we as a society can and must do better.
It's a dark secret. Children, teens don't understand that love shouldn't hurt.
The House vote on Bree's Law came on Valentine's Day.
With a vote of 38 yeas and 0 nays, House Bill 214 has passed the House.
The hope? The law will put a face on the problem of dating violence, one that students can relate to.
She's just like you, just like all of us. Bree loved life.
Butch and Cindy Moore's message, dating violence can happen to anyone.
Part of it is that Bree didn't know what to do, and her friends didn't know what to do.
Neither Bree nor her parents recognized the signs of an unhealthy relationship, like when her sisters asked Bree about her Facebook page.
How come your Facebook page is down? Josh says she doesn't need a Facebook page. She doesn't need to be communicating with anybody else. She's with me. And we've realized that this controlling, obsessive behavior is exactly how it starts. And you know what? It's not okay.
A lot of people don't even realize, that a lot of things they're doing in their dating relationships are not very healthy. Things like, texting our boyfriend or our girlfriend like 200 times a day and asking them, like, where are you at? Who are you with?
Bree's parents say Josh used text to keep Bree on a tight leash, which she allowed, not what you'd expect from a girl who lived large and loved to impersonate Julia Child in the kitchen.
Bree and I is a cooking show, you'll see, okay. Right here we are sauteing some onions.
We saw a video of her. She was a loud, happy, exciting person.
See this? Look at how nice it looks.
When I saw that, I thought, that's me, or that's someone I know.
I felt like it was relevant to me because, at my age.
I think that's the importance of having a name attached to it, is that we can think this was a human being who had a family and friends and was murdered because of an abusive partner, and that hits you in a different spot than a nameless figure.
I believe the law is so important to be passed. When you have it named based on something that happened, it carries an emotional value.
My heart goes out to Bree's family.
Butch and Cindy Moore's heart goes out to the students, and through Bree's story, they connect.
Don't be afraid to save someone's life. And if Bree's friends and coworkers would have done something, Bree might be alive today.
Bree's Law is scheduled for a Senate Education Committee hearing on Wednesday. Also, if you have some questions about how to find help, or if this program makes you feel traumatized, we have links to these resources at breeslaw.com, and you can either call, text, or chat. It's all confidential. And joining the conversation shortly, Carmen Lowry and Jennifer Baker on how to break that cycle. We talk with our kids about all kinds of things, curfews, driver safety. But do Do we talk with them about healthy relationships? Well, joining us to help us get started on that conversation, we have Carmen Lowry, who is head of the Alaska Network on Sexual Assault and Domestic Violence in Juneau, coming to us from our sister station in Juneau, KTVA. And we also have Jennifer Baker, who works with the state. She's the Adolescent Health Project Coordinator. So let's start off with this. You know, from your experience, Jenny, what does teen dating violence look like?
What I've heard from youth, for one of the examples, is my boyfriend threatens to get me drunk, so I'll have sex with him. Another way would be a physically abusive situation, like Bree was talking about, or the Bree story. Someone puts you down, blames you, or embarrasses you in public, trying to control who you see, where you work, trying to control your finances, trying to control who you see as far as your family, pressuring you to have sexual intercourse, access to birth control or condoms, and also if you see, an opportunity for someone who is doing this to other people, there's opportunities to help change their behaviors as well. Another piece is someone forcing you to send sexual pictures that you don't want to send.
So it has a whole range. Carmen, I want to go back to the text messages that went back and forth between Josh and Bree. He actually had, and we'll show this up on the screen, he actually had a nickname for the violence. I mean, what does that tell you?
Well, I think it's very disturbing. I think that by having a name for the violence allows for someone to distance themselves, to say, well, that's not me, that's not who I am. It also allows for a victim or the person in the dating relationship to differentiate, because when it's good, when you have a good relationship, it's really good. It's just when those bad things happen, that's what people don't like. So it makes it very confusing for a person.
Well, we have some numbers from a statewide survey of students from the 9th to the 12th grade. I'd like to put some of those up on the screen. Now, they have gone down. We have a physical dating violence graphic for you with some numbers. We also have sexual dating violence, and those numbers have gone down. So, what does this say?
We'd hope it says that what we're doing is potentially working, which is a lot of really great education in schools, a lot of great education in community partners, and a lot of increase in conversations between supportive adults and young people. Conversations that include, what would your perfect relationship look like? And what would you not put up with? Or what does abuse look like? Some of those questions.
Well, a lot of times there is a lot of blame surrounding this because we just don't know, why these things happen. We can't be as tuned in or always know what to do. I mean, how do we get past the blame, Carmen, on this and start focusing on solutions?
Yeah, that is critical to get to that point. And one, going back to what Jenny was talking about, is to really provide opportunities for there to be supportive conversations. So to provide opportunities to listen to young people, to let them know that this is not their fault. And then for adults to remember, it's our responsibility to provide a protective environment for children. So, for adults, it's about, again, listening to children. It's about working with school officials to establish policies that are protective of children. And it's also going into the legislature and say, what can we do so that we create opportunities so kids don't feel like they're all alone in this situation, that it's their responsibility to stop the violence.
Well, Jenny, you do a lot of work with kids. What suggestions do you have for parents to get this conversation started?
I really believe it starts with formal conversations when your child can start to understand language. Learning that they don't have to kiss grandma or grandpa goodbye if they don't want to. Being able to establish personal boundaries. They don't have to sit on Uncle John's lap if that makes them feel uncomfortable. And those feelings of discomfort can really be identified with young people. Like, hey, does your tummy hurt when you have to sit on Uncle John's lap? If it does, then you don't have to sit on Uncle John's lap. You don't have to kiss them goodbye. You don't have to do those sort of things. You can wave goodbye and be okay with those boundaries, and helping your family understand those boundaries can be established too.
But once you get into the adolescent age, I honestly did not talk to my son who's now an adult, about teen dating violence. It just wasn't on my radar screen.
Yeah, and that's why I was talking earlier about the talk now, talk often cards, that how to have those conversations. It can be with establishing rapport first, like, who's your favorite superhero? Why are they your favorite superhero? But also like describing your perfect relationship and how would you treat each other? What are the things that you won't put up with? And what does abuse look like? And how do you know if someone is being abused? And how would you be able to help a friend if you found out they were in an abusive situation? Those are a lot of the questions that are in our...
And we'll put information on how to access that on our website.
The Talk Knockout, Talk Often cards, which are free, can be sent to your door. And these are really great starting points for conversations like this.
Well, Carmen, kids have such a secret world that it's hard for us adults to penetrate. So kids could very well be our best advocates for preventing teen dating violence.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, peer-to-peer support is critical because kids are going to turn to each other, especially in their adolescent and teen years. So really being able to educate and going back to this role about educating kids, that is critical. Technology is changing so quickly and kids are right ahead of the ball game than adults are on understanding how to apply technology. They don't always understand the implications of technology. So really working with kids to say, this is what technological stalking looks like. No, it's not reasonable to have 200 texts. No, people should not put spyware onto your phone. No, people should not be monitoring your Facebook and trolling you. So it's really about educating kids so that they have the skill set that they need, because kids are super intelligent and they're really able to make some decisions about about how they want their world to be. So it's how do adults support them in doing that.
We're going to put some information up on the screen where you can go and get some help. And Jenny, you were kind of concerned that this program might trigger some trauma in people.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, I feel like that there is a lot of information out there about how Bree was murdered, and I feel like that can be triggering in someone that has been in an abusive relationship. And to know that there is help out there. Loveisrespect.org can give you a really great support mechanism. Also, you can call them at the number listed on the screen here. And also to be able to talk with somebody, to do things that you feel are therapeutic for you, whether it's breathing exercises, taking a moment to take a deep breath, and also being able to talk to somebody that cares about you and wants to chat about this information is important.
Carmen, finally, in wrapping things up here, what do you think is the most important thing that we should remember in this issue?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that we can create an environment where this doesn't happen, and that in order to do that, we have to continue talking with kids, and it's important for parents to talk with their children, but it is important for school officials to talk with kids, for community members to talk to kids, and to give space for kids to talk and to believe them and to listen to them and work with them for change.
And that's, I guess, the key thing is getting kids to understand that you will believe them. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for joining us. Well, this is a conversation that we need to keep on going. Thank you for being a part of it today. We'll see you next week.